every morning with drive. Being on the grind, know I had to survive. We had to win. Started from the dirt and the rubble. I had to be the needle that was popping your bubble.
Hello and welcome into the Rookie Prospect Profile Series, a Zilla Fantasy Elite production. Today we're going to be looking at wide receiver Ricky Pearsall within the rookie wide receiver machine learning models. Ricky Pearsall was drafted number 31 in the first round by the San Francisco 49ers, and they come into the league out of Florida University. Ricky Pearsall comes into the league at 6'1", 189 pounds, at a very good vertical jump at 42 inches, 40-yard dash, 4.41. His agility drills were super good. That 3-cone you want below 7, he was actually at 6.64, so super elite in these agility drills. If you kind of look into some of the prospect profiling too, Matt Harmon thinks he's super good in terms of his route running ability, says he's super refined, doesn't need to necessarily line up anywhere. He can go all over the field, runs good routes, beats man press coverage. I think San Francisco can utilize him in a manner that's good. The only problem is his landing spot is a little weird. He comes in to the league with target competition such as Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. So lots and lots of people there. So will these machine learning models kind of figure out, hey, what's this profile look like coming into the league? Will it match kind of his situation? Will it start bad and maybe get progressively better as his career goes on? Well, only one way to find out if he's poised for fantasy greatness or destined to fade into obscurity. Our machine learning models hold those answers, so stay tuned for the verdict. We're going to get started here with year one. And as we can see here on the year one profile, we got a lot of clumping for his particular answers on the sub 8 fantasy points per game range, and then a large trailing end or a trailing tail there on his 90th percentile outcome and out. Looking at the kind of floor for Ricky Pearsall in year one, it's ranking him number 9 overall. He was the 6th wide receiver drafted in that first round. That minimum at 2.68 is ranked 9th in the class. Mean and median hovering right around 6 fantasy points per game are ranked 10th in the class. But as you kind of progress there, his maximum output 11.8 is only 15th in the class. So it's really saying, hey, I know he was drafted pretty highly here. He's got a decent floor, top 10 floor, but his maximum output in year one, it's not going to be that good. Standard deviation is at 1.36, which gave him a CV of 22.3%. Actually, that's 6th best in the class. You'd hope so, being the 6th drafted wide receiver. Fairly confident, doesn't have a ton of data spread, even though his mean and median are maybe ranked a little bit lower at 10. So what does this look like for year one and for Ricky Pearsall? Who are the guys hovering around 6 fantasy points per game? And then again, that maximum at 11.8. Who are those guys? So out of all the rookie wide receivers, we have a couple of them that hit exactly 6. Deshaun Hamilton and Justin Hunter were right at 6 fantasy points per game. And several other people hovering just below that. Nico Collins in his first year, 5.97. Michael Campanaro, 5.8. He's really old. Trent Sherfield, 5.8. Wendell Williams, also 5.8. Jonathan Mingo last year, 5.65. Trey Palmer last year, 5.63. Getting to guys like that. A little bit above that, we had A.T. Perry last year, 6.06. Olabisi Johnson, the former Viking, at 6.1. Couple of guys at 6.2, Chris Godwin and Cody Core. And then Corey Davis and Geronimo Allison both at 6.3 in their rookie season. Michael Gallup at 6.4. So that's kind of hovering around where it thinks Ricky Pearsall will be in year one. Again, he's got a lot of target competition, so perhaps this makes a little bit more sense. Roughly about 6. He's going to get acclimated to the NFL with a bunch of studs in front of him competing for those targets. I kind of think this makes sense, this particular range. And it's saying his particular profile, it's not going to have a huge ceiling here. So at 11.8, it's only the 15th best in the class for the rookie season. Who's around that particular frame? Well, Cooper Kupp was exactly at 11.8 in his rookie season. A little bit below that, Christian Watson, 11.72. DK Metcalf, 11.6. And a handful of people at 11.5. Allen Robinson, Stephon Diggs, and Sterling Shepard, all at 11.5. And a little bit above that 11.8 mark, Darius Slayton, 12.1. T. Higgins, 12.16. Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins both at 12.4. And then funny enough, his teammate Deebo Samuel at 12.5 fantasy points per game in his rookie season. Again, that's saying the ceiling. We do 1,000 simulations to see what this guy's rookie season will be like. the very, very maxed out potential is in that range of guys that I just listed. But given his situation, I think it's a little bit more likely he's going to be right at his mean or median range, which is hovering around 6. So will he improve here going into year 2? Let's look at those numbers. And we pop it up and we can see his overall raw values do increase a little bit. But, it's not significant enough to make up for the other jumps that other players are making. And his rankings actually go down a little bit. His minimum ranking still in the top 10 at number 9 at 2.98 fantasy points per game. Mean and median, though, dropped down to the rank of 14, both hovering at just above 7 at 7.36 and 7.34 respectively. And then his maximum output at 13.48 is 13th best in the class. Again, he was 6th wide receiver off the board. First round draft pick isn't what you want to get out of your first round draft pick, but maybe San Francisco's got some plans for him. Again, we still got some target competition that could be coming his way in year 2 if none of these guys have moved on yet. Standard deviation at 1.75 and his CV at 23.8, ranked number 11 in the class. So still fairly confident in terms of how much data spread he's got in this particular year. Let's dive into those year 2 numbers, 7.3 for his median or mean, and then looking at the max of 13.5 essentially. So looking at all of the year 2 wide receivers in the last 11 draft classes, where does that 7.3 ranking give us? Well, we got a couple people right at exactly 7.3. Not super great names. Corey Coleman and Rico Gafford, if you've ever heard of them. They're both at 7.3 in their second season. Kendrick Bourne, 7.1. Traquan Smith, Russell Gage at 7.1. And then Khalil Shakir, 7.07. Quez Watkins, 6.82. Brian Edwards, 6.82. A little bit above that mark, Jahan Dotson in his second year, 7.34. Paris Campbell, 7.35. Corey Brown, 7.4. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 7.84. So right in the average range that is expecting him in year 2. If he's still got target competition there in San Francisco, I think this is a fairly accurate assessment. Getting into that 13.5 range for his maximum, we're getting into the guys like Sterling Shepard again at 13.1, Tyrell Williams 13.6. Those are sitting in a very fringe end of the top 40 of all time in the second year, just to give you a little reference there. A little bit above that range, Kenny Golladay 13.8, same with John Brown, 13.9 for Cortland Sutton, 14.0 for Michael Pittman. A little bit below that 13.5 range, I said Sterling Shepard, but Darnell Mooney, 12.92, Christian Kirk, 12.8, Cameron Meredith, 12.8, Garrett Wilson, 12.54, Keenan Allen, and chosen Robbie Anderson at 12.5 in their second seasons in the NFL. So it's about the range of outcomes, ceiling-wise that you can expect in the second year, where it's not going to be super great for fantasy, but 13 points isn't killing you. And I know Ricky Pearsall with the landing spot has been kind of dropping a little bit in these rookie drafts. With the fact that he probably doesn't have a ton of opportunities to get targets in this first season. But are we going to see that change? Let's look at year 3. We actually see here he takes a little bit of a dip in year 3, which you don't want to see from any of your players in terms of their mean and median, but ranked 11th in the minimum, average there at 1.5 fantasy points per game. And again, you can kind of see the similar data to his first year where it's all clumped, off to the left side of the graph. He's got a tail end there, suggesting that he's got a little bit of a ceiling based off of his outcome, but those are going to be the super rare, top 3, top 5 predictions out of the 1,000, hitting up that range if he does reach those potentials. His mean and median sitting at 18th and 19th for a rank in the class. 5.73 and 5.5 fantasy points per game in year 3. So based off of his profile, it's actually saying he's dipping down a little bit here in year 3, but his maximum actually goes up pretty decently to 14.81. But that is only ranked 17th in this particular class. How confident is the model in this? CV at 33.9, really 18th best in the class. It's not super great here or super confident in this particular result, but top 20, basically top half of the class in terms of CV there, with his rank pretty much coordinate to that for his mean and median at 18. So nothing out of the ordinary there. Let's get into those year 3 values, 5.5 to 6 roughly for his year 3 average output, and then close to 15 for his max. So who do we have hanging out in that range for his average? Well, we got a couple guys at 5.3, Demarcus Robinson and Isaiah McKenzie, both at 5.3. Paris Campbell, 5.37. Maurice Harris, 5.4. And then a little bit above that, going from about 5.5, a little bit above 6, we got Laviska Shenault at 5.59 in his 3rd season. Kimbrell Tompkins, 5.6. Chris Conley, super athletic, 5.7. JJ Nelson, 5.8. Kenny Stills, Albert Wilson at 5.9 each. Then a trio of people at 6. Jakeem Grant, Justin Hardy, Justin Hunter. A little bit above that, Jalen Guyton, 6.08. And Rondale Moore, 6.18. Now let's look at that maximum range hovering around 14.81 there. Who's up there in that 15 range? We got guys at 15.2, Will Fuller, DK Metcalf at 14.37. These would be top 25 year 3 totals of all time. Jarvis Landry, 14.3. Devonta Smith, 14.23. Steph Diggs, 14.2. Jalen Waddle, 14.2. A little bit above that, so Will Fuller at 15.2. Hunter Renfrow hit 15.24 in his 3rd season. Devontae Adams, 15.3. Kenny Golladay, 15.5. That's about where it's maxing out Ricky Pearsall in his 3rd season. Kind of the range that it's expecting him in year 3. Again, this guy's a 1st-round wide receiver in the NFL draft. So far, not particularly great in terms of his average across the first 3 seasons. But if you've stuck with us this long, his year 4 stuff does get a little bit juicier. So let's look at that. In the 4th season, we can really see a jump up here for Ricky Pearsall in terms of his ranking compared to his counterparts. Again, the numbers aren't exactly great, but the year 4 model is outputting some not spectacularly great mean and medians for most of the class. I think Marvin Harrison actually one of the better ones at about 11 for the year 4 mean. And again, these are rookie models. The NFL data gives us a lot more signal than the stats that we have coming into the NFL. So take that with a grain of salt. These models aren't as accurate as some of the veteran models that we put out by a pretty significant margin. But Ricky Pearsall here in year 4, 8th best minimum rank. So again, that floor always hovering around the top 10, 2.09 fantasy points per game. The mean and median a little bit above 8.5 to 9 range. So mean at 8.62, median 8.47. Those are ranked 7th best in the class. Then we get all the way up to his maximum output in year 4 at 17.88. It's actually the 5th best in the class, and his CV for that 4th year is 29.7, which is the 12th best in the class. So again, we see a large tail end on the last 10% of his predictions on a lot of these seasons. So it's really saying, hey, I really expect him to fall in this range, but he does have a path to a ceiling that is pretty solid for, most seasons. Based off of this, probably don't want to pick him in your 1st round because it's looking like year 4 before you're going to get any sort of needle moving output from him. But what do these numbers look like? 8.5 for the mean and median, and then close to 18 for the highest range. Just below that 8.5 range, we have Dante Pettis in his 4th season, 8.45. Terrence Williams, the Cowboy, 8.4. Cameron Meredith, 8.1. Traquan Smith, 7.97. MVS, 7.91. Hunter Renfrow, Ryan Grant, 7.9. Getting a little bit above that range, Darius Slayton, 8.56, DJ Chark, 8.6, Kendrick Bourne, 8.65, and a slew of people in between 8.7 and 8.9. Duke Williams, Martavis Bryant, Paris Campbell, Tyler Johnson, Devin Funchess, Cortland Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy, all in between 8.7 and 8.86. So that's kind of the range of outcomes it's expecting him to be in year 4. That maximum output was a little bit juicier there at 17.88. So where does that come into play? Surprisingly enough, that puts him in the top 5 overall in terms of year 4 fantasy output from wide receivers. That high end actually gets truncated quite a bit AJ Brown, currently the 5th best ever in year 4 at 17.62. Just above that, Odell Beckham, 18.5. And that jumps all the way up to 20.22 for Justin Jefferson. And then another big jump above that, 23.4 for Michael Thomas. And the best last year, CeeDee Lamb at 23.72. A little bit less than that, Steph Diggs, 17.6. Another big teardrop here to Jarvis Landry, 16.2. Chris Godwin, 15.92. Devontae Adams, 15.9. So again, I think this is part of the reason why the year 4 outputs averages aren't super high. Is we really, we're looking at a top 10 output of 15.7 fantasy points per game by Tyreek Hill in year 4. Doesn't seem like a ton. It's probably truncating some of the year 4 outputs that we've been seeing in the model so far. But that's the Ricky Pearsall profile here. We kind of see, hey, he's got some target competition at the beginning. The model doesn't necessarily like him in the first couple of years. Does kind of a year 4 comparative breakout where he gets into the top 10 rankings, saying this profile could probably be a little bit better than its counterparts in year 4. That ceiling we truly see get into a solid range in year 4. Does that happen? Who knows? He is a little bit older prospect coming in. It'll take him a little bit to kind of learn the NFL and really break out, similar to kind of college. He didn't really break out all over the place in college, but we could see this, kind of 4th year where he comes on, maybe gives us a ceiling and really puts some of that route running and stuff that you hear from Matt Harmon into effect to produce some fantasy goodness for owners. Hopefully these machine learning models have given you a little bit of additional confidence when you're going into your draft rooms on your draft weekends, however you're doing your rookie drafts. You get a little bit more info here to make your decisions. And that's going to do it for today's rookie prospect profile on Ricky Pearsall, presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. Thanks for sticking with us and thanks for tuning in. Bye.